All right, everyone. Welcome to our Saturday evening weekly setup. We are going to dive into setting up this next week in July. I hope folks are having a good summer so far. Um, I know I have had definitely it's been an interesting summer for me. And I am so glad you are here with us and we can chat about it and chat about I think we are going to be in week 30. Is this going to be week 30? Is that right? Oh my goodness. Yep, week 30. How does that happen? So where does the year go? I'm so happy to be with you. My name is Maya. If I haven't seen you before, I know I saw a few folks saying this was their first social in the chat. Welcome to our gathering together. I will tell you, just little heads up, none of you have your microphones or cameras on, so you don't have to worry about if stuff's going on in the background or whatever. Like you're on mute and you're no camera for you. It's just me. Also in the chat with me is the fabulous Jen O. She is coming to us from Texas and she will be keeping an eye on the chat if you have any questions or you need any links or anything kind of going on there. I try to keep an eye on the chat, but sometimes it gets rolling pretty fast. So I try to keep an eye, but Jen will definitely help keep an eye on that. Also, make sure that you set that chat to everyone. That little blue box has a really obnoxious tendency to flip back to host and panelist, especially if you're on like an iPad or an iPhone. So you have to make sure you keep changing it to everyone, because if you don't, the only person who sees what you write are myself and Jen. So, which I mean, sometimes that we're the only ones you want to see what you write. So you can totally do it that way. So keep in mind too that this will be recorded and we will get it posted up on YouTube. It usually takes a couple days for it to get posted up into YouTube, but the chat will not be there. So just so you know, if there's ever anything in the chat that you need to write down or a link that you want to remember, make sure you grab that because that's not saved or posted. And then the other thing I always recommend to folks is to take a screenshot of some of the slides, some of the examples that I'm going to show. If you want to remember those for future use, take a screenshot, or if you grab your camera and take a little picture of the slides so that you have those to remember. But those will be obviously in the recording on YouTube so that you can see it again. But make yourself a note so that you can remember. So let's see what else. Also, just a few community guidelines. We want to make sure that this is a safe and supportive space for everyone. So we just ask that you're kind and courteous to both yourself and to others. No promotions or spam. We respect everyone's privacy. We ask that there's no hate speech or bullying. We ask that you limit those repetitive product and accessory questions. It's okay to ask about stickers and what pins don't bleed through and those kinds of things. But honestly, the best place to ask those is in our Sonder Club app, because then folks can share pictures and give links and those kinds of things. So just know that that is there. And then if you have any of those customer care inquiries, like you need to change your address, you need to change your billing information, you want to upgrade from a monthly subscription to a yearly subscription, all of those kinds of things, those all go to hello@silkandsonder.com. And then ultimately remember that these socials are a tool to help elevate your emotional health through the power of community. And we have a fabulous, supportive, creative, super awesome community here. But ultimately, you are responsible for your own emotions, well-being, and decisions. So if there's ever anything that we're working on that just isn't your jam, um, feel free to work on a different page. Maybe you just want to color. If the chat is not your jam, right? If it gets going too fast and gets a little frustrating, just close that out and ignore it and focus on your journal. If you don't really want to work on your journal, you're here mostly for the chat and you'll do the journal offline at some other time, you could totally do that. If the music I play isn't your jam, you can mute that. If my voice isn't your jam, you can mute me. We do have closed captioning enabled, so you always have that option as well. So again, this is your time. This is your hour. You have carved out this time for you. So use it as you see fit. Do what you need to do to really make this helpful and productive and sometimes maybe rejuvenating time for you as we go through this hour, right? And so our theme this month has been kind of fun. It's kind of an interesting, it's been an interesting journey, kind of looking at this idea of independence. I know a lot of folks have really enjoyed kind of digging in and really kind of realizing sometimes that independence doesn't necessarily mean not asking for help. Sometimes independence actually is knowing when you need to ask for help from others, from a higher power. Really being open to all of that, but knowing that you yourself can be your own hero, right? And that's why I picked this little quote about the best thing a woman can do for herself is to be her own hero. So it's been kind of fun to dig into that theme. And, we still have a little bit of time to really kind of look at that and see how that's feeling and how that's resonating. And don't ever feel bad if for some reason the theme of the month just isn't resonating with you. Sometimes it doesn't. So if there's something else or maybe a different word, maybe freedom is more resonating for you, or something else along those lines, feel free to kind of like do what you need to do again to make this your own. Remember, there's no wrong way to Silk and Sonder. There's no wrong way to do the journals, no wrong way to be here at these socials. So our agenda for tonight, we are going to do the Independence Mind Map. And the mind map is just something that we do here in these weekly setup socials where we dig a little bit deeper into the theme of the month. And this isn't anything that's printed in your journal. This is just a separate thing that we work on a blank page or scratch paper or sticky notes, those kinds of things. Then we will do our rosebud thorn activity at the end of the week, which will be over on page 44. And then we'll work on those weekly setup pages, which will be on pages 46 and 47. So I always just have these two little cartoons here for you just to as a little reminder. The first one with the little pile of kittens says there's room for you here just as you are. So no matter if things are going great and you want to share lots of great things happening, we love to celebrate with you. Sometimes life is not always all the ups. It has some series of downs. So we're here for the downs as well. We're here for those lows. We're here for both the highs and the lows. And then also, speaking of feelings, the way you feel matters, and no emotion you feel is bad or unworthy. So no one can tell you, oh, you shouldn't be mad about that, or oh, you should be happy, about this, right? Like nobody can really tell you that how you're supposed to feel. Our feelings are our feelings, and we're here for all of that. So let's dive in and get started. So you're going to find a blank page in your journal. If you've been following along, this is going to be week 3. So maybe you've already got that set up, or if you're new, that's okay. You can just start where you are right now. And this month, we're really exploring and strengthening different facets of our independence. So each prompt is really helping us reflect and helping us understand our unique path, embrace solitude, champion our own thoughts, and foster self-reliance. So this week, again, is week 3. So the prompt for this week is think about a situation where you held a different opinion or perspective than the majority of a group you were part of. How did you feel in that moment? Did you voice your thoughts or did you hold back? What are the benefits and challenges of expressing an independent viewpoint, and when might it be most important to do so? So this one can be a little bit challenging, right? Thinking about where you had a different opinion or a different perspective or a different idea about whatever was going on, right? And maybe different from the majority of the group. Maybe the group was your family, maybe the group was your coworkers, maybe it was your boss or leadership, those kinds of things. And really thinking about how you felt and thinking about, did you voice your thoughts or did you hold back? The other thing I want to mention is the other 2 weeks prompts are here. If you hadn't had a chance to do those, you can always take a quick picture if you want to do those, but you don't have to always go back and do the last 2 weeks. You can just kind of start fresh. So I liked this quote by Steve Jobs, and Jennifer found this one. It says, your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most importantly, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary. And I think this is a good quote, a good little reminder to think about. And I'll cycle through these slides when I play some music, so you can, as you work on that. So don't think you won't see this week 3 prompt again. You will see it. But what I think is important about this idea of having differing opinions or having a different perspective is finding that balance, right? Because I love the Dr. Seuss quote that says, "Be who you are and say what you feel, because those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind." But then there's also the balance about, before you speak, ask yourself if what you are going to say is true, is kind, is necessary, and is helpful. If the answer is no, maybe what you are about to say should be left unsaid. And sometimes that's journaling, right? Sometimes you might want to spend some time journaling. Maybe you think, I'm not really going to voice this to folks because maybe it will come across as unkind. Maybe it's not really a necessary thing to say. But I still want to be able to voice that. So I'm going to use maybe some time in my journaling process. So I'm going to let you work on that. Think about that. Think about that week 3. And yeah, speaking up, really, there is that balancing act, right? Kind of trying to figure out when the best time is to say things, what to say. Sometimes it's important to have a pause, to think for a minute instead of firing off. I think that's one of the things with the internet age, is that we have gotten maybe a little used to immediately responding. And so sometimes it would be better if you took a pause, if you stopped for a moment, the stimulus of whatever's happening, and you just take that pause and reflect, and then really form what you want to say or what your thoughts are. Yeah, and Lisa's saying, my mom often says, choose your battles, right? Sometimes it's kind of like, okay, this thing is very different from my viewpoint, or it's very different from my perspective, or it's very frustrating, right? But I don't know that I'm really going to go into battle with this. I don't know that I'm really going to engage. I think maybe it's a time to step back, and then finding that balance of the times when it is important to step up and it is important to say something. And I see a lot of folks are putting some things in the chat, right? Kind of talking about how this works. So I think this is a great time to reflect on this. Feel free to share in the chat and have that conversation. I will play a little bit of music, and then we'll check back in here in just a moment. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of time reflecting on that. And thanks to those who were sharing in the chat some of the things that they have encountered with this question, right? With this idea of situations where you have a different opinion or a different perspective. Some folks were talking about being on jury duty, which can really be very stressful when you have folks who have a very different opinion of like what's happening or what's going on with this person versus how you're feeling, and really being able to share your opinion or share your perspective in a way that other folks will listen, right? And that can be tricky, right? And knowing how to have those conversations with people, sometimes this is just it can be frustrating, and trying to share feelings sometimes and not quite knowing how, or not wanting to appear um maybe kind of on the offensive or the defensive, or kind of what that looks like. So I think this is a good question, and if you were kind of struggling with it or not quite sure how to answer, I think that's okay. Really kind of thinking about what that looks like, and thinking about that throughout the week is probably something that's good. And again, this really kind of goes into this idea of independence, right? This idea of having your own thoughts, having your own perspectives, having your own feelings, and deciding, weighing the benefits and challenges of expressing those independent viewpoints, and deciding when it would be important to express that, and when it might be like, okay, I'm going to sit and think about this, maybe write it out, decide whether or not I actually want to go forward. I know somebody had mentioned they sometimes will type out a letter, or type out kind of what they want to say and then erase the whole thing, right? Because it's like, okay, I don't, sometimes just the writing of it can get it out there. So thank you all so much for spending that time reflecting on that question, and really kind of thinking about that as it relates to this idea of independence. So let's look over into our journals this time now, over on page 44, where we do our weekly reflection for our rose, our bud, and our thorn, right? So this is an opportunity for us to just really kind of reflect back on this last week, how things went. The thorn, which is something maybe that's frustrating or a challenge, or something that's kind of outside of your control. And so for me, like for the last week or so, I've been having this weird hip pain. It's kind of in my hip flexor. It's only on one leg, so I'm not sure what's going on with that. So that's been kind of, I'm like, okay, maybe I need to do a little more stretching. Maybe I've been sitting too much. Maybe it's just one of those things that sometimes comes with age, and we have to work out a little bit more, or walk a little bit more. Like Jen and I were talking before we started here, talking about, the motion is lotion, right? So keeping our joints working well. The bud is something that is an emerging opportunity, something that's exciting, something that you're looking forward to that's coming up. And then the rose is a highlight, something exciting, something that's fun, something that is making you smile. And sometimes, as in the case for me, my bud and my rose are the same. I have a new job. I will officially start on August 4th, but I actually went yesterday to one of our their leadership launch, which was super fun. I got to meet a lot of the principals. I got to meet some different folks, and we got to I got to kind of get a preview of what the year is going to look like for the district there. So new district, new job, and then I'll be there Monday also. So definitely exciting. And I see lots of other folks are getting new jobs as well. So that's very exciting. So super awesome. I love that. And new jobs can definitely be a new opportunity for something that is kind of a rose and that bud. And yeah, so lots of us are kind of changing and growing. And then it's important, it is for the sake of the rose, we have to water the thorns. So the thorns are there, and losing my other job was definitely a thorn, but it was one of those where it also really allowed me to let go of some things and open up some new opportunities. So feel free to share in the chat your rose, your bud, your thorn, any of those that you would like. I'll play a short little song, and then we'll check back in here in just a few moments. Oh, right. Thank you for sharing those rosebuds and thorns in the chat. I know a lot of folks are struggling a little bit with thorns with different sorts of, health issues. Those are definitely always a thorn. It can be so frustrating, and we can really feel sometimes very powerless to fix them or to hope that they go away. So I'm hoping everyone with those health issues, my hip pain included, will calm down and go away. And I saw some other folks with some really fun roses, having very nice weather, able to go out and garden, being able to get outside. Somebody got some mulch for their garden so that they can work on that. Some folks had some family visiting, which is always a fun idea. Some people had their friends come to visit. Oh, someone had their friend from New Zealand came all the way to visit in Colorado. I love that. How fun. It's always so great sometimes for those long distance friends to be able to come and have a visit. So glad to see when that happens. So again, thank you all for sharing in the chat. And this is always a really good time for us just to spend a moment to think back on that week. And I know sometimes people will say, I don't think I had any roses, like it was just a horrible week. And I always encourage you to really try and think back, look back through your pictures for the week, look back through your journal, look back through anything. And sometimes something that's small can be a rose. You could have a small thing be a rose. Sometimes it's just, maybe you got to drive down the street and see a dog hanging his head out the window. I love to watch when dogs are in the car and their heads are hanging out the window and they are so happy. I'm like, that dog is living his best life. They just love to see that. So sometimes we want to focus on sometimes the roses, something that's small, so that's there. And we know that um, things do kind of change up. So I hope that you have spent a little bit of time there, kind of filling that out. Always good to spend that time. So let's look at our weekly planner over on page 46 and 47. Again, this is going to be week 30 for the year. And we always spend a little bit of time with each one of these little areas so you can kind of see. And I'm going to give you lots of examples. If you're new and you haven't done this before, sometimes looking at these two blank pages gets a little overwhelming. So it's important to pick what you need. Sometimes if you're new, maybe only focusing on one or two of these little areas is important. So it can get a little overwhelming. And you can always repurpose these sections. So I'll show you how some folks have repurpose this section. I do want to show you, I've been showing this one this summer because I think this is so great. She used this for her vacation planning. So she was going to go to Disney for the week. So she just really repurposed, right, both pages. So she's got wants to feel these great and wonderful days. She's got her Disneyland goals going on there instead of the weekly 3 goals. She's got her flight plans going in there. She's just got stickers, fun little Disney stickers there where it says habits and activities. She's using the meal plan as a what happened today so she can give herself a little reminder for each day of vacation, what happened and what they did. She's got a nice little section for if she's bored in the airport, things that she can do, which is so fantastic to kind of I love that idea of thinking that. And then I really think it's so important. She used the shopping list section for a back home reset. So important, right? You go on this fabulous vacation, you're gone for a week, everything's great. You come back and then you're not quite ready to go. So having that back home reset, like, reminding herself that she needs to take a shower and take a nap and unpack and go get groceries and check her finances and pack the school bag and do the laundry. It's just such a nice holistic picture of that week and really gives a nice picture to really kind of think about, this is what I'm going to do. So I'll probably set mine up this way next week, because next Sunday, not this Sunday, but next Sunday, we'll be heading to the East Coast to Ocean City, Maryland for our annual trip to the beach. So I'll probably set mine up this way because I love the idea of kind of setting things up for your vacation. So there's a good little example of how you can do this for vacationing. It doesn't look like a typical week, right? And so when you look at the top of page 46, you see the first thing is this week I want to feel. And it's always nice to set that intention of how you want to feel, how you want to show up for everybody, show up for yourself for this week, and it can be one word like mighty or self-love or realigned. It can be multiple words. Someone wants to feel accomplished, in control, and peaceful. Someone wants to have fun in the sun. You can use stickers. You can also use this instead of I want to feel, you can have I am. So it can be more of an I am statement. So, like, I am magnificent. I am grateful. I am divine. I am on vacation. I am limitless, right? So this is kind of a fun way to think about doing that. So I'll let you, if you want, drop your feeling. I see somebody says they want to feel organized this week. Let us know there in the chat. I'll play a little bit of music while you think about that feeling for the week, and then we'll keep moving. Right. I saw lots of fun words like rested, restored, colorful, happy. I want to feel pretty. I love that idea. I want to feel pretty. I was actually thinking like I want to feel beautiful, right? Like, but what would your week look like if that was how you wanted to feel? I want to feel happy. I want to feel focused and brave. I want to feel self-assured, self-love, empowered, carefree and beautiful, productive. Lots of folks wanting to feel productive and organized. I think sometimes summer kind of is a little bit of a recharge for some folks. Like they want to feel unstoppable, they want to feel accomplished, they want that sense of purpose. So love that idea. So take that feeling, and then as we move into our three goals, our weekly major three goals, think about how these goals are going to support the way you want to feel this week. And I do want to point out that sometimes having three goals is too many for the week. So you maybe want to focus on one goal, and that is absolutely okay. Right. And I think this idea of choice and this idea of intention is so, so important. And this quote is expectations are infinite, but our time is finite. So you're always choosing, choose well. So really kind of think about what this next week, what your expectations may be for it, and then what the actual time and what you can do in that time is going to work, which is why sometimes one goal is the most important to focus on. And so you can do different things with these weekly three goals. You can use your July intentions page to remind you of what your intentions are for the month. You can look at that monthly habit tracker to maybe think about some goals that you want to use. Maybe you want to set these goals through the lens of independence. Maybe you want to do some no goals. So things like no alcohol, no doom scrolling on the internet, no more than a certain number of minutes on social media, no more impulse spending, no more takeout meals. Maybe you have some outstanding goals from last week that you want to bring forward. Some people, it's not so much a weekly goal, it's a monthly goal, and they just keep bringing it forward each week of the month, which is absolutely fine, right? Again, remember this is your journal and you want to do what works for you. Maybe you want to frame these goals around a personal challenge, so like a fitness challenge or a cleaning or a decluttering or self-care or new recipes challenge that you want to do. And then I did want to include, for those of you who came to the mid-year reset, I told you that I would include this in the weekly setup so we could kind of remind of Meha, our founder, was talking about this idea of a three-part goal system or three different types of goals. So she talked about it could be an outcome goal. So maybe one of these goals is an outcome goal. What do you want to achieve or experience? You want to make it measurable and time bound. So things like you want to run a half marathon, buy your dream home, those kinds of things, those outcome goals. Or maybe you want it to be an identity goal. Maybe you have some identity goals for this week. So who do you want to become in this process? Maybe you want to be a woman who trusts herself. For those of us who are talking about feeling beautiful and pretty, maybe you want to be a woman who dresses for success, right? I saw someone who said they had that in there. I want to be a calm, self-centered mom. I want to be, resilient. And then you could also do a process goal. So what daily or weekly rituals will help you get there? So like hows and inputs, things you need to do to get you where you want to go. So here's some examples. Outcome-based goals. You can see some outcome-based goals. So like run a marathon in under 7 hours. But when you take that and you have an identity goal, an identity-driven goal, they're saying things, their goal is more become a consistent runner who enjoys daily movement. And then the process goal is run 3 to 5 times per week, track runs, and stretch after workouts. So these are kind of different ways to look at these goals. It depends on maybe how you're motivated. If you write a goal like, I want to write a book, or maybe instead of say, I want to save $10,000 this year, maybe you say, I want to save $100 this week, or something like that. But sometimes maybe that isn't enough. And you want to maybe look more at the identity goal, or you want to look more at the process goal, or you want to kind of write it out as all three, what this looks like. So these are just some good examples, again, kind of taking some pictures. And I know maybe there's some folks who were at that mid-year reset who wanted that reminder. So this is your little reminder about those different types of goals, those goals that stick. And then here's some examples of how folks kind of tied in their feeling with their three goals, and dividing the goals into things like a body, mind, and spirit goal, a body, mind, and a work goal. Maybe you want to, this person they celebrate was how they wanted to feel. So they have celebrate health, celebrate family, celebrate vacationing, right? So those are kind of fun ways. And then they kind of wrote about how they wanted to do that. Again, mind, body, heart. One person divided into read, write, move, and work. So they had 4 goals, which is okay. One person, their goals are, they have a left brain goal, a right brain goal, and a no brain goal. I thought that was kind of a fun way to think about how you can kind of divide that up and what that looks like. And I think, yep, that was the last one of those. So I'm going to let you work on those goals. Think about what that looks like. And I am actually going to, since we're here, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the to-dos, because sometimes the goals and the to-dos tie in together. So see how you feel about your goal, and then some of the to-dos in that little to-do box over to the side. Some people like to use the Eisenhower matrix to help them figure out those to-dos, those tasks, what that looks like. So they divide them into things they're either going to do, decide, delegate, or delete. And this can be a really helpful if you have like a big master list. I know Jen O often will make a big master list of all the tasks that she has for the month. And then she looks at that master list and says, okay, where do these fit in? How do I categorize these in the matrix? Are they something that I'm going to do this week? Are they something that I'm going to do at a different time? So you can kind of think of how what that looks like. So the Eisenhower matrix can be a super helpful way to kind of split up those to-dos. Then you can see some other folks have just kind of some fun little stickers that they put in there. One person has their to-dos, they have self and others, and for their house. Some people, they divided it up into 3 little sections. Some people have morning and evening. Some people do their work in their home. And then sometimes it's just a straight up to-do list, right? Straight up what those pieces look like. Oops. So I am going to just cycle through these pieces, these goals, creating the goals that stick, kind of what these goals look like. Feel free to share in the chat if you would like, your goals and or your to-dos, or how, if you're going to repurpose this in any way, what you're doing with these sections. And then we'll check back in here in just a few moments. Okay, so how do we do with those goals and those to-dos? I saw a lot of folks saying their to-do list is often just that, right? It's a whole list of to-dos and things that they want to get done. Sometimes, and I don't think I had an example. Oops, I just muted myself. Um, sometimes people like to use the to-do list, or even in the goals list, they will do a bingo. And that can be kind of fun, a fun way to tackle those to-dos. So let's drop down now to the habits and activities, or the habities, as I have sometimes called them when I talk too fast. The idea with these is that these are things that are specific to the week. Maybe it's a habit that you're kind of experimenting with to see how this works. And that's why I put in there, choose a self-love habit. So things like following your bedtime, or scheduling breaks when needed, celebrating your wins, those kinds of things can be good habities that you can have in there. And or there are activities that are specific to the week. Maybe there's something you need to do 2 or 3 times this week. but it really only is specific to this week. And some people actually do bring these along from week to week. So different ways to kind of look at this. You can see sometimes people will cross off the weekends, right? Like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. They're not going to do those things then, so they cross those off. You don't have to fill in every single line, right? You don't have to fill in all 5 lines. Maybe there's just one thing that you want to try to do several times this week. Some people don't even set the goal for how many times they want to do it. They just kind of have it colored in. You can see there's the one, they have it a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 goal. So the first one, they want to clock in on time 5 times that week. They want to do a 20-minute tidy 4 times, vacuum 3 times, cook dinner 2 times, have family game night 1 time, those kinds of things. I think that those are some good examples. And then here's some other examples of things that you could use. So I will let you take a look at that and see if there's anything what you would like to put in for those habits and activities. Some people will just completely cover that with stickers and they won't use it for the week at all. So that totally depends on what you're doing with it. So I'll play a little bit of music, let you work on that, and then we'll check back in and keep moving on. Okay, so hopefully you've got some ideas for some things that you want in there. I see Jennifer is one of our other Jennifers is saying that she says my 5 rarely change unless the season changes. And I love that idea, right? Sometimes summer has 5 things, 5 habits, activities that you do, and then when fall comes, they're going to switch up again, and then when winter comes, they'll switch up again. And I love the idea that they could be these seasonal habits and activities of things that you're doing and how that might look a little bit different. So excellent idea for what that looks like. So now let's flip over to that next page on page 47. Our fabulous, one of our other fabulous facilitators, Katie, likes to call this the B side, right? So sometimes if you're listening to a record, you only listen to the A side over and over, but every once in a while you'll flip it over and use that B side. So not everybody uses every section here every week. Sometimes it kind of depends on what you're working on or what this looks like. So, excuse me, that first section is the meal plan. And I think this is probably one of our most heavily repurposed sections. Folks want to know kind of what to do with it. Obviously, you can use it to plan out your meals for the week. Some people like to use it to record their meals for the week. Some people like to maybe focus on just, excuse me, planning out dinners. Who would have thought as adults we would have to ask ourselves so many times, what's for dinner? So maybe sometimes that's helpful as you kind of plan those out. And then some people like to use it to help keep track of their leftovers. So they remember to eat those leftovers before they go bad. Some people use it for daily affirmations, keeping track of work things that happen, work meetings, making a cleaning plan, exercise tracker, end of the day reflection, affirmations, a packing list, a wardrobe planner. I do love it as a packing list for traveling. It helps keep me from overpacking when I plan out what I'm going to wear for each one of those days and then pack. It can be very, very helpful. You can see some other examples, a chore list, appointments and socials that they're going to, their wardrobe tracker if they're going to plan out what they're wearing. And then I like, there's the one over on the left, they've color coded the water droplets. So, color coding for if it was water, if it was coffee, if it was soda, kind of to try to keep track of their hydration habits, if you will. And then I'm going to go over all the sections here and then play the music so you can kind of decide how you want to use these sections. But we also have the mind body health plan. And I love this little dog who his plan for the week is tomorrow I'm going to be amazing. Today I'm going to be amazing. Tomorrow I'll be fabulous. Wednesday I'll be extraordinary. Thursday I'll be wonderful. Friday I'll be magnificent. Saturday I'll be incredible. And Sunday I'm going to be brilliant. So I thought that was kind of a cute little plan for the week there. You can also see other things folks have done, keeping track of how they nourish their mind, body, and soul, keeping track of their Wordle, cleaning list, just general things that they want to do for each day. How did I care for myself? I like that the one there on the bottom right. They said no, they worked on a puzzle, they had lunch with friends. So kind of keeping track there. Yeah, keeping track of the type of rest that you're getting, what you're feeling and what you're needing. Again, different kinds of things like going to bed early, connecting with family. I like the one on the bottom left. They have 4 things and then they kind of drew a line for each day, which one they're going to use, right? So they have strength, yoga, walk, and other for their movement. And then Monday they did walking, Tuesday they did yoga, Friday and Saturday they did yoga, Sunday they did walking. So kind of a fun way to keep track of that. Using a little alliteration there for meatless Monday, TV free Tuesday, walking Wednesday, thoughtful Thursday, family fun Friday, Sabbath Saturday, self-care Sunday, kind of a fun way to keep track or plan out different kinds of things that you're going to work on. Shopping list obviously can be a shopping list, but I love this person. They kind of flipped it a little bit. And so they have food in the house. Right. So here's food I already have in the house. These are the things we have in the fridge. These are the things we have in the pantry. So to kind of help yourself as you're planning those meals, I thought that was a great idea to be like, what do we already have? Other folks have said things like no unnecessary spending, lots of ideas for fun bingo boards, bingo games to play. Birthday week bingo. I saw some folks saying they have a birthday coming up next week. So they're going to do some fun birthday bingo. Someone has some self-care, restoring their soul, an unshopping list, staying out of the dollar store, some chores that they want to do. Again, packing. Some doodles, a quote, some bills that are due, social check-ins. So they're kind of keeping track of how they're checking on their different family members, friends and family members, and how they did that. And then the I am loving box down at the bottom is just whatever you are loving at this particular time. It could be right now. It could be something you fill out in midweek. I will say I did a much like how I did the in real life Sonder Club, I actually did an in real life knitting group meetup today at the library for Knit Stars. And I had 3 people that came. So it was lovely. We had a fun time knitting. So that was super fun. So definitely loving that. So I will let you work on this last page. Let us know how you're repurposing things. And then we'll check back in and wrap things up. All right, so hopefully you've got some good ideas for how to use this page. Again, sometimes people don't use this section at all. They're like, okay, this week I don't need it. They fill it up with stickers. It's a great place to put stickers if you have a plethora of stickers that have not been able to live out their sticker destiny, and you want them to be able to shine on a page. You can pop those in there. Sarah's saying I always do the same thing on the B side. I do affirmations and roses of the day. And I love that, right? Don't think that you have to do something brand new every single week, right? If this is something that works for you, if it works great for you to do those affirmations and write your roses or your small wins in this section, bring that forward, right? Bring it, right? You don't have to keep doing things different. And yes, stickers are super fun. Stickers want to be stuck on something, so get them out of those little boxes or those little bins and put them on things. So believe it or not, we have come to the end of our time together. We love it when you can share your pages with us in Sonder Club. You can see all of these are real life examples from real life Sonder fams. So we love it if you feel so moved to share things. And yeah, Chris, this is like the fastest hour. I don't know how it goes by so quickly, but I also did want to mention that we do have the exclusive event coming up this week, the using the Big Five to personalize your growth journey. So this is one of our exclusive events. So there is a small charge for this. And we have our founder, Meha, is going to be there along with someone from Truity, which is a personality quiz website, and they will be talking about the Big Five personality traits, and what that looks like and how you can personalize your growth journey. So join us for that. We would love to see you there. We also have some socials. We have a weekly setup tomorrow. We have a weekly setup on Monday. I think we've got coloring, I think, is coming up. So lots of fun ones that are included in your membership that don't have that extra charge. So we love if you can join us as much as possible. And yes, we do record the exclusive event. So if you're not able to be there, you do get the link to the recording. So thank you all so very much for being with us here tonight. I hope you have a fabulous rest of your weekend, and we will see you again soon. Take care, everyone.
You're beautiful, that's for sure. You'll never, ever fade. You're lovely, but it's not for sure. I won't ever change. And though my love is great, and though my love is true, I'm like a bird, I only fly away. I don't know where my soul is, I don't know where my home is. And baby, all I need for you to know is I'm like a bird, I'll only fly away. I don't know where my soul is, I don't know where my home is. All I need for you to know is your faith in me brings me to tears. Even after all these